Hello, well I'm talking today to Rachel Lee. Thank you for coming, Rachel. And Rachel did the school, ESSL, from 2014 to 15. She did the first year. And I want to talk to her today and ask her about life after ESSL and what she's gone on to do. So we're going to launch straight into that. So Rachel, tell us what happened as soon as you finished school.
Well, my husband and I, we lead a small church in SE18. So basically, of course, I came back to my church and they actually employ me to mostly do some strategic administration there and planning, and as well for looking after the worship and things like that. So that's concretely what happened. But as well, what is interesting is when I came back from ESSL, straight away in June I started to be actually quite ill. So pretty much every month for a period of 6 or 7 months I would have a whole week when I was quite weak and not very well. And at the same time I was starting this job. And it meant that throughout the year I actually ended up quite exhausted and not so well. And I hit summer 2016, and I was saying to Jamie, you know, everything is not that bad. I'm okay, but for whatever reason, my connection with God doesn't feel the same. And you know, first it hit me that I hadn't taken as much time than I should to refuel my tank with God. You know, that's the first thing. And the second thing is, took me probably 2 months to realize that actually deep down I was disappointed and I needed to deal with my disappointment. And what it is pretty much I worked hard, but I didn't get all the fruit that I thought I deserved. Okay. And I had this moment when I had to really encounter God and say, God, you know, this is what's happening, what's going on. And it's really funny because he came with this really sweet voice and said, oh, my darling, you're a little bit like a 2-year-old girl. You're doing a little tantrum because you don't think that is going the way you should have it. And it really took me on a journey of looking at what is spiritual maturity, what it is to inherit the promises. How do we inherit the promises? You know, the fact that we need faith and patience, and to run the race well. Yeah. And it took me as well on a journey at looking at what can I do to manage myself well in this area. And for me it has to be first to look at the gauge of my beliefs. You know, are they alive? Are they good in God? Am I full of hope and I'm full of life? And then look at the gauge of my body and my emotions, and are they working well together? And in this context as well, God has spoken to us a lot about how to cultivate good stuff in our life. So how to develop a wholehearted living way of life. And basically we were reading a lot of Brené Brown's book with Jamie. Okay. And you know, in the same way that Pete says to get rid of the darkness you switch on the light. Yes. We just realize, oh my gosh, yeah, of course we want to get rid of shame, we want to get rid of disappointment, hopelessness, but how do you do that? How do you cultivate the good side? How do you cultivate the love, the belonging, the being courageous, being connected, to be authentic? How do you do that? And that took us on a journey of looking out, at things like the importance of gratitude and thankfulness, the importance of play, the importance of fun, and how to cultivate practice that would mean that we develop the good stuff in our lives. So that's really mainly what has been going on this year, really, for me.
So what were the tools that you felt that you gained from the school, and that it sounds like, you know, for a while you kind of forgot them and then came back to them? What would you say were the main things that you drew on in that experience in overcoming that disappointment?
I think it's the connection with God that is the most important thing, and the intimacy with God is the most important thing. And I think what I realized after school is, you come into this amazing atmosphere and you receive from that and you're a benefactor and participant in it. But it's a different thing, it's a different gear to go in a context where you have to be the atmosphere setter In a sense, you have to come in the room and being full of hope, full of joy. And if you are not connected to God, what happens is your fuel tank is going lower and lower and lower, and you're not able to shift atmosphere around you.
Yeah.
So I think more and more I'm learning to, to be a more hopeful person.
Yep.
And with intimacy with God, develop hope and develop right beliefs in my life. And another thing that for me was great at the school is the whole thing of using my creativity and imagination. That really came alive for me. So now I process things the way I want, meaning by that I don't feel the pressure, I need to only do the serious thing, spend 5 hours reading my Bible.
Yeah.
I feel free to be myself, and some amazing stuff came out of just me processing with God and drawing what He was telling me.
Yeah.
And taking even hours doing that kind of transformed me, and then was having a visual impact for others.
Okay.
So the whole thing of using my imagination, using my creativity, that has been really, really important.
And what you talked about, how when your kind of, if we call it your internal world, changed, and how that then impacted others. So could you tell us maybe a couple of stories about that, about how the change in you then impacted those that you came across?
Yeah. First of all, it has been on. One thing that happened, I would say, this last year is just we processed the wholehearted living thing for ourselves, because we felt.
Tell us more about that, about the course.
So we felt we needed it. We felt we needed it, and we were reading the book by Brody Brown, How to Live Wholeheartedly, and it's called The Gifts of Imperfection. And we were reading that, and we saw, oh my gosh, we do need to concentrate on cultivating freedom and having practice that help us to be free and courageous and authentic and be able to belong and be able to love and things like that. So it took us on a journey to develop a course, and we were able to, I think, impact others by doing some teaching with the Global Legacy, but we did it as well in our church, and so many people now are shifting on, their habit was, I'm looking at the bad stuff.
Yes.
And actually now they're saying, no, actually, I'm not a victim. What can I do now to develop the hope that I can have in God, and to develop freedom, etc. And basically, it's sometimes people read stuff or hear stuff and they're able to process immediately and they have a great revelation. But sometimes they need help in developing baby step and practice.
Yeah.
So I think that's where we've been able to help others, even in our church, encouraging them to have a outlook who is full of thanksgiving and gratitude and joy. At the moment in our church, we are doing a whole series on hope and joy, and it is part of really developing that wholehearted living.
So Rachel, finally, if you could give one piece of advice to someone who's done ESSL and they want to make an impact where they are, whether that be in their workplace, at home, in their family, in their neighbourhood, in their church, what would that one piece of advice be?
Okay, so I think I've got two really, and the first one is to not run alone, because we are in the race, which is pushing forward to inherit the promises of God. And sometimes it's tough, sometimes it's easier, but it's important to be in a family, in a community. So I think find someone to run with, find a family, find somewhere you belong. It's really important. And as well, work at your connection. So you are a son or a daughter, but you are as well a father and a mother. That means you learn from others, but you are as well able to give, and to be connected to others. So that's really the first one, to not run alone. And the second one is really to look at your whole belief system. I think that's where the Steve and Wendy Backlund teaching is really important, because I think when we believe right, we are full of hope. And I think we can only impact others when we are full of hope. And I think that leads to being able to shift atmosphere wherever we are. because here, obviously, we are benefiting of the atmosphere of Eastgate. But when you at work or when you somewhere else, you have to be able to bring hope and bring light, and you can only do that if your beliefs are right.
Excellent. Rochelle, thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for being interviewed. I hope you found those insights really valuable, and you'll be hearing more great testimonies on the alumni website. Thank you.